As the famous saying goes, the adventure's never over until you're back at the car. Looks like everybody else got back to the car already, except for that guy. So yeah, good job everyone.
BWR Canada 2024 was my first proper gravel bike race, and it swallowed me up more than a warm toasty waffle from IHOP. But I did finish it, so that I can now share my daring tale with you in this video. For those that don't know, BWR stands for Belgian Waffle Ride, and it is inspired by the famous European single-day races like Paris-Roubaix and Milan-San Remo. I have some cool shots I took from my GoPro and drone, plus I have good info for anyone considering this race, or any gravel bike race. Before I show you where the race is located and the route, here is a quick little sizzle reel to get you fired north. So, where in the vast nation of Canada is this race located? Well, it is in the province of British Columbia on Vancouver Island in a small town called Duncan, which is right in the middle between the two largest cities of Nanaimo and Victoria. If you're coming from the mainland, you will need to take a ferry across to the island and then drive into Duncan. Here's a fun course flyover I made. The version of the race I did was the waffle distance, which was 192 kilometers or 120 miles with about 3,400 meters or 11,000 feet of elevation gain. There are two shorter options available, one called the Wafer with about 110k or the Wana with 56k. The course has two proper climbs. The first is only 10k in and it's about 300 meters up, and the second climb is 160k in and it's about 400 meters up on gravel.
3, 2, 1, allez, 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 bonne chance! Good luck to all the riders. Great to see some of them. What a nice start as well. Fantastic start. Great to see everyone.
Now that the race is underway, I'm going to share a smattering of insights about this race. I would love to provide a more immersive commentary about my personal racing progress, but like I said in the video title and thumbnail, I finished almost last place. So, not much battling for position to share. My worst race ever, yes, but it was also my first proper cycling race ever, so a bit of hyperbole there. I did do a gravel bike race leg in a relay race back in 2023, but it was only 30k, but I did come in the top third of racers, so that is my current career peak to date. But enough about me, let's talk about the race. Like I said before, there are 3 different categories that all start at the same time. This created a recipe for a bottleneck of maple syrup to be dumped on the wafflers at around 17k in. This is where the first big descent occurs, and it's on some single track and gravel. I think the single track descents would be rated as green on a mountain bike, but it is for sure more tricky when doing it on a gravel bike with riders right behind you. I personally was slower at descending than several people who had arrived at the top of the climb behind me, so I did pull off a couple times to let people pass. I was still in the top probably 90 riders at this time. For me, I was trying to be conscious of keeping up while under pressure, but that is often what leads to crashes. That all being said, the Wafer and Wanda riders that were a bit faster might have been towards the front of the race, which inflated the overall amount of people challenging for the space on the descent. I would recommend anyone that fancies themselves to belong in the top half of the race should try to get out towards the front of the group so they don't get stuck behind riders like me. There isn't really another single track bottleneck after this one though. If you get nothing else from this video, then hear this. Do not do this event without a GPS head unit. The race is marked with little arrow signs on all of the turns, which is hundreds of turns, so surely not a small feat to do for the organizers. However, it appears that some of the turn junctions had their little directional arrow signs stolen, which as you can guess creates a very confusing experience. I think it is safe to assume that locals of the areas where the race runs through might have wanted to disrupt the event a bit in protest of the disruption that the race causes in their neighborhood. I don't have proof, so who knows, but regardless, a GPS is key. I had multiple other racers ask me for directions, and I witnessed multiple people go the wrong way and have to double back. Also, I don't want to give the impression at all that this event is not well run, because the aid stations were excellent. They had plenty of water, electrolyte drink, free/included gels, and random snacks like candy and chips. The folks running the aid stations were also really kind and encouraging. I have I've done a few different races in my days, and I've seen some really meager aid stations and very grumpy people running them. Of course, they're all people volunteering, so we should always just say thank you regardless. So as I already mentioned, I came B4, or in other words, 4th last. I was 125th out of 128 racers, which is daringly close to last place on paper, but my time was 11 hours and 13 minutes, while last place was 11 hours and 50, and race cutoff was at 12 hours. Now, the winner finished in 6 hours and 10 minutes, which is almost twice as fast as me. So kudos to Julien Gagné, who is a fellow Canadian. Now, just a quick little make me look not as bad as I look on paper moment, because 17 people DNF'd, or in other words, did not finish. So at least I was able to finish. Just for reference, 103 people finished the wafer, and another 61 finished the WANA distance. Now, time for me to share a few excuses for my performance being perhaps not the best I can do. I was feeling low energy the whole week, and when I woke up for the race morning, I felt bad enough that if I had a regular weekend activity planned that morning, I would have just canceled it. Yes, everyone has to go through these struggles, so yeah, it is what it is. Felt kind of crap the whole race, but I did it because it was like $250 and I'd already made the ferry trip. So what are you gonna do? I actually rode more than usual during the summer with lots of gravel riding in North Vancouver and Burnaby Mountain, which did actually prepare me a lot for the hills. I also have to give huge credit to the depth of the field. There were a bunch of really solid cyclists finishing in what looks like average placings. I think the field was relatively deep, and I also think cycling racing is just a whole other beast compared to doing rides with your friends or by yourself that feel up-tempo or fast. I wish I had more energy for the race to use the fitness I had built, but I honestly think I would have maybe only just broken 10 hours if I was feeling good, or perhaps maybe 9.5 hours. So I mentioned I trained quite a bit, but I did focus a lot on hills. I would actually say this course favors straight power training, since the hill climbs are relatively short compared to a mountain climb on the North Shore. Also, you can work in groups, so having a good flat power is probably more important than feeling like you can do a fast mountain climb effort.
Finisher, Jalen second, number 105. Congratulations on your ride.
You too, thanks. Oh, thank you.
Lastly, you can see as I finished that there were legit like 2 people there, and then the race organizers. Everyone had already finished, done their post-race celebrations, and left. That was a little bit of a bummer, but also totally reasonable. I was so far back from the bulk of the racers that it makes sense. People had drank their beer, eaten their pizza, and probably made a dash for the ferry. To the credit of the BWR organizers, they said we could have as much leftover pizza as we wanted since all the beer was gone. So yeah, a really unclimactic and relatively lonely finish to a super long day on the bike, but also it logically makes sense that everyone had already left. FYI, it looks like the 2025 version is going to start in a different spot, maybe a few kilometers away from the start of the 2024 version. However, I would assume the course will remain very similar to the previous years. Anyways, that's a wrap, folks, on the 2024 Belgian Waffle Ride Canada. I do recommend this race, and I hope this video helped prepare you for the different nuances of the event. Please like the video if you found this helpful. Hit subscribe if you want to follow along on future topics or adventures, and maybe even leave a comment telling me how I need to train harder for next time. All right, I'm out.